I'm 68 years old, and I've spent over $300,000 trying to look like I'm 45. 3 facelifts, Botox every 3 months for 20 years, fillers, lasers, threads. I have standing appointments at clinics most people can't even pronounce the names of. And you know what the punchline is? I look in the mirror some mornings and I don't even recognize the woman staring back at me. My own daughter once said I looked expensive instead of saying I looked beautiful. Expensive, like a handbag. That's what I turned myself into. I've been married 3 times, bankrupt twice, and I spent 50 years of my life believing that if I could just fix my face, my body, my skin, everything else would fall into place. I was wrong. And if you're watching this because you feel like you're not enough unless you look a certain way, I need you to listen to me, because I don't have time to sugarcoat this anymore. 2 years ago, I woke up at 4 in the morning and couldn't move my jaw. Not like it was stiff. I mean, my entire face felt like it was made of concrete. I stumbled to the bathroom, turned on the light, and saw my reflection. Half of my face was drooping. My left eye wouldn't blink. I looked like I'd been melted. I thought I was having a stroke. My daughter rushed me to the emergency room. I remember sitting in that sterile white room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and the doctor came in with my chart. He didn't look at me. He looked at the chart. "Mrs. Harrison," he said, "this isn't a stroke. This is nerve damage, likely from repeated cosmetic procedures. The tissue around your facial nerves has been compromised." I couldn't even cry properly. My face wouldn't move. He kept talking. Something about scar tissue, about how I'd had so many procedures that my body was essentially rejecting itself, about how at my age, continuing down this path could lead to permanent paralysis or disfigurement. And then he asked me a question that I still hear in my sleep. "Why have you done this to yourself?" I didn't have an answer. I just sat there, half my face frozen, wearing a designer tracksuit I bought because it hid my arms, and I realized I didn't know. I genuinely didn't know why anymore. The nurse had to help me to the car. My daughter drove in complete silence. When we got home, she finally spoke. "Mom," she said, "I don't even know what you really look like." That was the moment. That was the moment the room started spinning. Because she was right. I'd erased myself. I'd spent half a century erasing myself. One injection, one incision, one procedure at a time. And I'd convinced myself I was improving. Let me tell you how this started. Because it didn't start with vanity. It started with something much quieter, much more insidious. I was 23 when I got married the first time. Beautiful wedding, white dress, 300 guests, and 2 weeks into the marriage, my husband made a comment about a waitress, about how well she'd aged. She was maybe 35. That was the seed. See, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, the age of supermodels, of you can never be too rich or too thin, of magazine covers that told us our value had an expiration date. And I internalized every single message. By the time I was 30, I was getting chemical peels. By 35, my first Botox. By 40, I'd had my first facelift. Each time, it was supposed to make me feel better, more confident, more worthy of love. But here's what they don't tell you about chasing beauty as your identity. It's a treadmill that speeds up. You start with something small, a little Botox between the brows. Then it's the forehead, then the crow's feet. Then you notice your jawline, then your neck, then your hands, then your knees, for God's sake. There's always something new to fix, because the goalpost moves every single time you look in the mirror. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, it worked, sort of. People complimented me. Strangers told me I looked amazing for my age. My second husband married me because I was, in his words, the best-looking woman in the room. I got attention. validation, proof that I was doing it right. But none of it stuck. The compliments faded by the time I got home. The validation evaporated the moment I was alone. And the marriages, they fell apart anyway. Because when your entire identity is built on a foundation of not being yourself, there's nothing underneath to hold on to. My second husband left me for a woman 10 years older than me. You want to know why? Because she made him laugh. Because she was interested in his life. Because she wasn't spending 4 hours a day in front of a mirror trying to freeze time. I was so busy trying to be looked at that I forgot to be present. I want to tell you about a trip I didn't take. My daughter was 16. She asked me to go to Paris with her for spring break, just the two of us. She'd saved up money from her part-time job. She had the whole thing planned, and I said no. Not because I couldn't afford it, not because I didn't have the time. I said no because I'd just scheduled my second facelift, and the recovery was going to take 6 weeks. I told her we'll go next year, when I'm healed, when I look better. We never went. She stopped asking me to do things after that, and I didn't notice. I was too busy preparing for my next consultation, my next procedure, my next fix. I have a photo album from her high school graduation. I'm in exactly 3 pictures, and in every single one, I'm checking my reflection in a compact mirror. I'm not looking at her. I'm not watching her walk across that stage. I'm checking my makeup. That's what I traded. Moments for mirrors. I remember my mother's funeral. I was 52, and I spent the morning before the service getting an emergency filler appointment because I'd noticed my nasolabial folds were too deep in the lighting of the funeral home. My own mother was dead, and I was getting my face injected. My third marriage ended because I spent our retirement savings on cosmetic procedures. $47,000 in 1 year. We were supposed to buy a cabin in Montana. He'd been dreaming about it for decades, and I spent it on my face. He didn't yell, he didn't scream. He just looked at me and said, "I don't think you love anything more than your reflection." He was right. I missed my best friend's 50th birthday party because I had bruising from a laser treatment. I skipped my niece's wedding because I was swollen from a chemical peel. I said no to 1,000 ordinary, irreplaceable moments because I was too busy trying to achieve something that doesn't exist. There is no perfect. There's no finish line where you finally look good enough and the race is over. You just keep running until you can't anymore. So here's what I need you to hear. If you're spending hours on your appearance because it makes you feel good, fine. Do it. Enjoy it. But if you're doing it because you think you're not enough without it, if you're doing it because you're terrified of being invisible, if you're doing it because you believe your value is tied to your face, your body, your age, stop. Stop right now. Because I'm on the other side of that lie, and I can tell you exactly where it leads. It leads to a lifetime of missed moments, of relationships you didn't nurture because you were too busy in the bathroom, of experiences you didn't have because you were too self-conscious, of a version of yourself you never met because you were too busy trying to be someone else. You know what I wish I'd done instead? I wish I'd spent that $300,000 on therapy, on traveling with my daughter, on learning to paint or speak Italian, or do literally anything that made me feel like a whole person instead of a face. I wish I'd let myself age. I wish I'd looked in the mirror at 30 and said, "This is me. This is what I look like, and I'm going to spend my life living instead of maintaining." I wish I'd chosen presence over perfection. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. The people who love you, they don't care what you look like. They care that you show up, that you're present, that you're there. And the people who only love you for your appearance, they were never going to stay anyway. You can't inject your way into worthiness. You can't lift your way into love. You can't freeze your way into fulfillment. You just end up frozen. I look at my daughter now, and she's 34. She's got laugh lines, gray hairs she doesn't cover. She wears her age like a badge of honor, and she's the most beautiful person I know. Not because of her face, because of who she is, because she shows up, because she's real. My face healed. The nerve damage eventually resolved after months of therapy and rest. Physically, I recovered. But the years I lost, the moments I missed, the relationships I damaged, those don't heal. There's no procedure for that. I've started letting my face move again. Really move. I smile without checking if it's causing wrinkles. I laugh without worrying about my jawline. I cry when I need to, without panicking about puffiness. Some days I feel ancient. I feel every year of 68. And some days I feel 100, not because of pain, but because of the weight of all those wasted years. I look in the mirror now, and I'm learning to see a person instead of a project. This real, imperfect, human face that tells the story of my life, even the parts I wish I could rewrite. I'm learning to be myself, finally. So let me ask you this. If you spend the next 30 years chasing an image, if you sacrifice your time, your money, your relationships, your presence, if you make it to my age and realize you never actually lived because you were too busy maintaining a mask, would you be satisfied? Would it have been worth it? Think about that. Because time is the one thing you can't lift, inject, or laser your way back to. And once it's gone, it's gone. So let me ask you this. If you spend the next 30 years chasing an image, if you sacrifice your time, your money, your relationships, your presence, if you make it to my age and realize you never actually lived because you were too busy maintaining a mask, would you be satisfied? Would it have been worth it? Think about that, because time is the one thing you can't lift, inject, or laser your way back to. And once it's gone, it's gone. If this resonated with you, I need you to do something for me. Leave a comment. Tell me one thing you're going to stop apologizing for, one way you're going to choose presence over perfection. Because we're building a community here of people who are done living for appearances. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's struggling with their reflection, someone who's forgotten they're more than their exterior. Hit that like button if you want more raw, unfiltered truth. And subscribe, because I'm not done talking yet. I've got 68 years of lessons, and I'm running out of time to share them. We're in this together. Now go live your life.